Guru from the Blessed One, Tathagata the head, completely perfect Buddha, great victor Shakyamuni Lord. To you we bow, go for refuge, and offer gifts, so please bless us. Guru from the Blessed One, Tathagata and the head, completely perfect Buddha, great victor Shakyamuni Lord. To you we bow, go for refuge, and offer gifts, so please bless us. Guru from the Blessed One, Tathagata and the head, completely perfect Buddha, great victor Shakyamuni Lord. To you we bow, go for refuge, and offer gifts, so please bless us. O Blessed One, Shakyamuni Buddha, precious treasury of compassion, bestower of supreme inner peace, you who love all beings without exception, are the source of happiness and goodness, and you guide us to the liberating path. Your body is a wish-fulfilling joy. Your speech is supreme purifying nectar, and your mind is refuge for all living beings. With folded hands I turn to you, supreme, unchanging friend. I request from the depths of my heart, please give me the light of your wisdom to dispel the darkness of my mind, and to heal my mental continuum. Please nourish me with your goodness, that I in turn may nourish all beings with an unceasing banquet of delight. Through your compassionate intention, your blessings and virtuous deeds, on my strong wish to rely upon you. May all suffering quickly cease, and all happiness and joy be fulfilled. And may Holy Dhamma flourish forevermore.
Now, in this meditation, we're mainly focusing on the practice of taking. However, we're going to build up a very good foundation of pure compassion. Now, I say pure compassion is my intention. Hopefully, we can generate a compassion that is without, or at least have a reduced sense of self-cherishing, a sense of I, self. You know, so I'll begin by leading a meditation on the disadvantages or the faults of self-cherishing. How it is cherishing something that does not exist, how it leads to all our suffering for ourselves, for others. So, contemplating like this, from your side, you simply make a decision. You decide, I'm going to stop self-cherishing. I'm going to stop thinking the self, I, is most important. Is happiness, is freedom from suffering is important. And neglecting others, you know. So from your side, you decide to stop. If you want, you can simply imagine that you have no self-cherishing, you know. You imagine, you realize the self that we normally see does not exist. So there's no self to cherish. You can simply do this, and it's correct imagination, because it is the truth. It is out of wisdom. Even though maybe right now we can't see it directly, we're still grasping like this. But if you practice like this in time, this is your experience. So start imagining it, believing it right now. There's no self to cherish. Yeah. Then naturally, we stop focusing on this one self. You can also think, I'm one, others are countless. So you're imagining all living beings around you. Then all we need to do is to observe and contemplate how everybody suffers. You know? By doing so, I'll use some of Geshe-la's words, you know, how not just suffering from aging, sickness, not just physical suffering, but the inner fire, for example, the inner fire of anger. Now, if you look now, I would say in particular, if you look now around you in our world, you see, actually you don't, you see a manifestation of that anger, but you can imagine what people feel like inside with that anger, the pain they feel. And that doesn't come from, that pain is not, you know, they're angry because so-and-so does something, because of the government, blah, 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 like this. It's not. Anger comes from self-grasping, self-cherishing. Its main cause is inside. All the things that's happening outside, this particular event that's happened, is just triggers, you know, just conditions. Yeah. So the main suffering is inside, and that suffering, for example, of anger, the inner fire of anger that burns, that hurts, lies within everyone's mind. So by thinking like this, naturally comes a wish to stop all this suffering, to take away the suffering of others, external and internal. And then we go on to follow the simple instructions as described in the book. We visualize the black smoke that destroys our self-cherishing, and then finally we meditate on the belief that all living beings are free from their suffering and our self-cherishing, self-grasping completely destroyed. Yeah. So this belief is thinking, believing. Thinking, believing. From your side, thinking, believing. You're not looking for some proof out there. You just, out of wisdom, out of compassion, you're thinking and holding this correct belief. It is a correct belief. It is correct to believe this. You have to believe it because you can't see it. You can't see it yet. It is a correct belief because if you keep thinking, believing this, you will experience it in the future. Your mind will become pure. The world that you see will become pure. All living beings you experience are pure, will become pure, like this. So you can put all your heart into this belief, and we hold this belief as our object of meditation. Yeah. So if you practice like this, even though you will see suffering in the world around you, that suffering will help you to generate the pure mind of compassion. The pure mind of compassion will stop you finding faults in whatever you see in others, because it's pure mind, it sees purity. The pure mind of compassion will lead you to experience or to project a pure world, you know. So at the end, you will, just through that compassion, you will experience all living beings free from their suffering. Yeah. So in order to, because it's quite a profound practice, you know, our mind needs to change from thinking about ourselves to forgetting about ourselves, forgetting about our problems, thinking about only my problems, my depression, like this. We need to look at all the suffering of living beings and finding that unbearable, as if their suffering so overwhelming is as if it is our own. So it requires some real change of heart, you know. This meditation helps us to use our imagination, use our correct belief. We stop believing in the things that we normally see. We start imagining, believing in a pure world that we engage in, that we create with the power of our imagination, you know. So there's a lot of change we need to do in our mind. To help you, we need to receive lots and lots of blessings. Blessings are inspirations, powerful, good energy that we receive from the holy beings. So that's why we engage in the prayer for meditation. With this prayer, it gives us power to change and transform our mind from a selfish mind, ordinary mind, impure mind, to pure mind, to mind without self-grasping, self-cherishing, to a compassionate mind. So please rely upon the prayers, the power of the prayers to do this. Okay? So we can now begin to prepare for our meditation. So please check your meditation posture. Having a straight back. Try not to hold any tension within the body, but allow it to naturally relax into the posture. Gently closing your eyes. There's no need to squeeze your eyes shut. If you can, allow some light through the bottom of your eyelids. This will help your alertness. Once our body is relaxed, we can become aware of our thoughts. Turn your attention inwards and begin to observe your mind. There may be a whole train of thoughts arising in your mind. There's no need to pay attention to these. Instead, begin to focus your attention on the breath. Breathing naturally, begin to focus on the subtle sensation of the breath just inside the nostrils. You can feel the movement of the air as you're breathing naturally in and out of your nostrils. This way, we pacify our gross distractions. And we're ready to engage in the preparatory prayer for meditation.
I and all sentient beings until we achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings until we achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings until we achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Through the virtues I collect by giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues I collect by giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues I collect by giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha for the benefit of all. May everyone be happy, may everyone be free from misery, may no one ever be separated from their happiness. May everyone have equanimity, free from hatred and attachment. In the space before me is the living Buddha Shakyamuni, surrounded by all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, like the full moon surrounded by stars. With my body, speech, and mind, humbly I prostrate, and make offerings both set out and imagined. I confess my wrong deeds from all time, and rejoice in the virtues of all. Please stay until samsara ceases, and turn the wheel of Dharma for us. I dedicate all virtues to great enlightenment. The ground sprinkled with perfume and spread with flowers, the great mountain for land, sun and moon, seen as a Buddha land and offered thus. May all beings enjoy such pure lands. I offer without any sense of loss the objects that give rise to my attachment, hatred, and confusion. My friends, enemies, and strangers are bodies and enjoyments. Please accept these and bless me to be released directly from the three poisons. Itam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. The path begins with strong reliance on my kind teacher, source of all good. Oh, bless me with this understanding to follow him with great devotion. This human life with all its freedoms extremely rare, with so much meaning. Oh, bless me with this understanding all day and night to seize its essence. My body like a water bubble decays and dies so very quickly. After death come results of karma, just like the shadow of a body. With this firm knowledge and remembrance, bless me to be extremely cautious, always avoiding harmful actions and gathering abundant virtue. Samsara's pleasures are deceptive, give no contentment, only torment. So please bless me to strive sincerely to gain the bliss of perfect freedom. Oh, bless me so that from this pure thought come mindfulness and greatest caution, to keep as my essential practice the doctrine's root, the pratimoksha. Just like myself, all my kind mothers are drowning in samsara's ocean. Oh, so that I may soon release them, bless me to train in bodhicitta. But I cannot become a Buddha by this alone, without three ethics. So bless me with the strength to practice the Bodhisattva's ordination, by pacifying my distractions and analyzing perfect meanings. Bless me to quickly gain the union of special insight and quiescence. When I become a pure container through common paths, bless me to enter the essence practice of good fortune, the supreme vehicle Vajrayana. The two attainments both depend on my sacred vows and my commitments. Bless me to understand this clearly and keep them at the cost of my life. By constant practice in 4 sessions, the way explained by holy teachers. Oh, bless me to gain both the stages which are the essence of the Tantras. May those who guide me on the good path and my companions all have long lives. Bless me to pacify completely all obstacles, outer and inner. May I always find perfect teachers and take delight in holy Dharma. Accomplish all grounds and paths swiftly, and gain the state of Vajradhara. From the hearts of all the holy beings, streams of light and nectar flow down, granting blessings and purifying.
Really connecting to Buddha in front of you, surrounded by all the other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Lights and nectars emerge from their hearts. Gather at your crown and filling your entire body and mind. Purifying and stopping your mind of self-cherishing and self-grasping. Ripening the seed of your compassion. Giving you the strength and courage to take on the suffering of all living beings. First, we can simply contemplate the faults of our self-cherishing attitude. A mind that regards our own happiness, our own freedom, more important than others. You can think, since beginningless time, in life after life, I have been a slave to my self-cherishing mind. I have trusted it implicitly and obeyed its every command, believing the way to solve my problems and find happiness is to put myself before everyone else. Now please identify this self-cherishing attitude that we all have. You can think, I have worked so hard and for so long for my own sake. But what do I have to show for it? Have I solved all my problems and found the lasting happiness that I desire? No. It is clear that pursuing my own selfish interests has deceived me. After having indulged in my self-cherishing for so many lives, now is the time to realize that it simply does not work. Contemplate these points a few times. Come to a conclusion and make a strong decision. I must give up cherishing myself. I must stop this deceptive mind. It is cherishing a self that does not even exist. I must stop my self-cherishing. Hold this determination in your mind. You can imagine you have stopped grasping at the self that you normally see. By imagining, realizing that it does not exist at all. Therefore, you have stopped cherishing yourself. What we want to achieve here in this meditation is a mind that has stopped grasping at oneself, has stopped this focus on one's own happiness and freedom while neglecting others. And with a mind that has stopped self-cherishing, we imagine surrounding us are countless living beings. All living beings of the six realms, with those whom you are close to, your friends and family, sitting nearest to you. They reach to the ends of space. Although they are all beings of the six realms, They now all appear as human beings. At this point, you can put yourself into perspective and think, I am only one. Others are countless. My own happiness and freedom are insignificant compared to those of others. And here, completely forget about your own problems, your own suffering. Only pay attention to the problems and suffering of others. For example, those whom you know right now are suffering from sickness. Right now, have great fear of uncertainty. Bring them so close to you, your dear friends, your family. Let their problems, their suffering, touch your heart. Now with a mind that cherishes all living beings, we can think how they suffer. Although some beings seem higher or lower, each without exception experiences suffering life after life. No matter how high, even in the God realm. Worries, fears, dangers, depression. Everyone experiences anger, attachment, jealousy, ignorance. Through ignorance, they do not know how to be happy, how to be free from suffering. They always engage in actions that cause suffering, especially ignorance grasping at I. They are always uncomfortable, unpeaceful. Think about all those conflicts in this world right now, and those who are involved. Anger is like an internal fire. When it arises, it burns in a peace. It arises because self-grasping is so strong. It pervades all our environment. So self-grasping problems are unbelievable. We should understand all beings experience this suffering life after life. Now we experience an impure world, contaminated enjoyment, true suffering. If we check carefully, we understand the relationship between self-grasping and our external world. It is just an appearance to our mind, the same nature as our mind of self-grasping. In this way, contemplate how every living being around you, due to self-grasping, self-cherishing, have to experience birth, sickness, aging, death in a continual cycle. How can we bear this? I am only one. These suffering beings are countless. How can I bear all this suffering? With this feeling of unbearability, we develop a sincere wish to release all living beings from suffering by attaining permanent liberation from suffering. When this compassion feeling develops, we imagine our whole mind transforms into this compassion. And we meditate on it for as long as possible. Here we are focusing on our own mind of compassion that only thinks about the sufferings of others. It gives rise to a strong wish to stop all this suffering. This wish is the most important part of the practice of taking. A compassion that is without self-concern, self-cherishing. Now all we need to do is to use our imagination and our concentration. Use this mental action to take away the suffering of all living beings. We think human beings experience the sufferings of birth, sickness, aging, and death. The suffering of poverty, hunger, and thirst. Meeting adverse conditions, not fulfilling their wishes. And of being separated from their loved ones. They also have countless other sorrows. Animals experience the same sufferings, but far, far worse. Hungry spirits experience the sufferings of intense hunger and thirst. And hell beings experience unimaginable sufferings of heat and cold. Think in their countless future lives, all these living beings around me will continue to experience the sufferings of humans, animals, hungry spirits, hell beings, the suffering of the demigods and gods, without choice. How wonderful it would be if all these living beings were permanently free from the suffering and fears in this life and in countless future lives. Pray from the depths of your heart, out of your pure, great compassion. May they achieve this. I myself will work for them to achieve this. I must do this. I must do this right now. Now, with concentration and using your imagination, visualize that the sufferings of all living beings gather together in the aspect of black smoke. This dissolves into your ignorance of self-grasping and self-cherishing at your heart. Take your time to visualize this. Black smoke, all the sufferings of living beings, drawing towards your heart, completely destroying your self-grasping and self-cherishing. Think, imagine, and finally believe that all living beings are permanently free from suffering, and that your ignorance of self-grasping and self-cherishing is completely destroyed. Meditate on this correct belief, this beneficial belief, single-pointedly for as long as possible. This meditation makes your mind of great compassion very powerful. The more your compassion increases, your mind becomes more and more pure. When your mind is completely pure, you will perceive a pure world, pure body and mind. In this way, in reality, you become a pure being with pure, lasting happiness. Living in a pure land. There's no more basis for any samsaric problems. All human problems disappear. Now gently relax your concentration, keeping this pure mind of compassion at your heart. We can now engage in the dedication practice.
Through the virtues I have collected, by practicing the stages of the path, may all living beings find the opportunity to practice in the same way. May everyone experience the happiness of humans and gods, and quickly attain enlightenment, so that samsara is finally extinguished. So that the tradition of Tsongkhapa, the King of the Dhamma, may flourish. May all obstacles be pacified, and may all favorable conditions abound. Through the two collections of myself and others, gathered throughout the three times, may the doctrine of Conqueror Los and Dragon flourish forever.